So, I wanted to talk a little bit about this. Is something we've already been discussing in chat a little bit, but 2023 has been like really huge for the TCG market. I think 2022 already was pretty big for the TCG market, but somebody did the math, and basically in 2023, apparently we're gonna have like 19 different card games actively running in English. That's not taking into consideration the Japanese market, which has like, I think, over 30. So I was actually talking about this a bit earlier with my friend Majin Obama, how like this is, 5 years ago, because chat, think back to 5 years ago, right? 2017, like 2018, or even further back to that, like when digital card games were starting to become more platformed. It's like there was such a big expansion of the digital card game marketplace. People were like, oh, TCG's dead. Like, there's no way TCGs are gonna live. And then they didn't, kept going, but, just like, still like, played to a great extent, but not like a crazy growth in the community or anything. And then we had COVID, and when COVID started, everyone was like, oh, that's it. TCGs, wrap it up, pack your bags. TCGs are not making it out of COVID. It's no use. There's no way they're gonna survive because, like, you can't play with people in person. Your cards can't do anything, and we didn't know that remote play would be a thing at the time, I guess. It kind of started to pick up relatively early in COVID, but they wouldn't, it wouldn't start becoming like a big tournament format for a couple months. But I don't think anyone expected for us to like come out of the pandemic and for card games to become this huge. Like right now, like, I don't know, I see Disney's Lorcana and I'm just like, this is a direct result of card games being the biggest they've ever been. Because there's no other way a company like Disney would be cashing in on card games when they can have so many other like investments that they could be making that would be generating more profit. But it's like, you look at the Pokemon company and they probably, most of their profit comes from card games because they can release just cardboard all the time wrapped in plastic for a set price that sells out on every single release. And they're like, literally the Pokemon card games, like tournament registration numbers are the biggest record breaking they've ever been, and it just keeps growing like crazy. Like Pokemon is so big that it's like it's like unprecedented. And it's like, this is partially thanks to like people coming out of COVID and wanting an in-person hobby, people wanting just like to connect with people again face to face, because that's just kind of how it's been. Yeah, what damn Pokemon YouTuber is releasing his own CCG, like it's, yeah, like it shows how the market is super huge. But for me, it's also obviously the one of the Paul brothers kind of starting up the whole like collector hype market for card games. I think that's really died down since then, but like that, like that collector market blow up kind of had these ricochet effects where TCGs just grew in general, right? They just grew in general, and there's so much more eyes on card games. And I feel like there was like a lot of really good, like it was like a domino effect where that started, and then you had a bunch of like TCG players that were like looking for something new to play because their card games weren't really like in a very entertaining spot or fun to play spot during the pandemic. So Digimon card game came out, and it saw a huge explosion where it's like so many people started TCGs with the Digimon card game, and a lot of existing TCG players play the Digimon card game because it was just, fresh and cool. And it's like last year in 2022, we had One Piece TCG, which like here, I live in Japan, and One Piece is like the biggest TCG. It feels like it's the biggest TCG after Pokemon in terms of popularity. Like, you have to raffle your way into every single local shop tournament because there's really attractive prizes that sell for a lot of money, and everyone wants them and everyone wants to play. And like the regionals have huge amounts of players, and just in general, it's like One Piece is huge, like everyone plays them, right? English has like a bunch of like really popular English exclusive card games like Flesh and Blood and the My Hero Academia card game. Like those two they don't exist in Japan, but they're huge, right? They're huge in their like own communities. And now going into 2023, it's like we have Battle Spirits Saga, which is like, you know, Battle Spirits finally porting the game back into English, trying to like, I don't know what crowd they're trying to catch, because Battle Spirits' original crowd is like the same as the Vanguard crowd, which is like people that like card game anime, and the kind of like style that Vanguard has is kind of like what Battle Spirits has, in my opinion, plus like collabs, I guess, that is kind of Vicey. Vice is another game for Busho that grew like crazy recently because of the huge collector market and stuff, and I'm just kind of curious like where that will continue going to. But then you look at other things like One Piece will continue to grow as they stock more product. Pokemon is never going to stop because it's the biggest card game that exists in Japan. It literally like triples the numbers of every other game. Pokemon is biggest by far and away. Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic and Duel Masters do not match against it. And yes, I said that right. Duel Masters is one of the biggest card games in the freaking country here in Japan. Yeah, Battle Spirits is pretty technical. Yeah, it's a very unique game too. So I'm wondering how Battle Spirits Saga will go, because they're trying to attract people with like the big cash prizes and like stuff like that. And then One Piece is just huge because it's, you know, that's what the game is. And then we have Shadowverse Evolve, where like it had a pretty big launch in Japan, and it's kind of trickled off a little bit, but it's still pretty big. Like I went to a major event for Shadowverse Evolve where we had like 1,800 players in Yokohama. And like that's really impressive numbers for a game that had just come out, basically. You know, it had come out for half a year when I went to that event. So that's coming out in English in June, and if Bushrod wants that to succeed, or if Cygames wants that to succeed, or if both of them wanted to succeed in English, that's going to require a lot of marketing, because you are going up against freaking One Piece, Battle Spirits, like the existing games, not just the big three, but you know, things like Digimon, things like Vanguard are also part of your competition. And then there's Lorcana coming out, which to me, like, Lorcana is kind of weird because I feel zero attraction to it. I feel like most card games feel like they're like somebody's passion project, like somebody made this card game because they felt strong about something. Like I really like Fire Emblem Cypher, for example, because it feels like, you know, it's just the creators of Fire Emblem really wanted to turn the game into cards, and it just kind of, the Disney one doesn't really feel like that. It feels like it's like a reskin of a different game or compilation of different games. Yeah, there's like freaking Union Arena, like Bandai's Vice Schwartz with like freaking like the Tales of series, Hunter x Hunter, Jujutsu Kaisen, like all these like jump titles in a card game too. Like every company's just going ham on card games this year. And the reason why I'm having this talk is that like a lot of people that play card games, they sometimes play more than one. And or if they play one, they quit the rest that they used to play in order to just focus on one. And the TCG market this year is going to be the most competitive it has ever been. Like this is going to be cutthroat. And the reason why this is being brought up is because, you know, our beloved game Vanguard is going to have to fight a little bit harder than it has before, you know. So this means like more marketing, more attractive incentives to play the game, you know, more ways to get people into the game. So I'm really curious how the companies that run the currently existing relatively popular card games, what will they do to respond to how crazy huge the market is? Like it's wild, because like I think of like, I play fighting games, I don't think there's ever been like 19 concurrently running, supported and updating fighting games at the same time. Like, you know, old ones obviously exist, but they don't get updates. And like it's crazy how oversaturated the market is. Like 5 years ago this would be unthinkable, and I wonder like when does it end? Like when does this like growth of the TCG market stop? Does it stop? Do we just keep adding more titles, just keep making more games? Like games surely have to keep dropping off, or is it that just there's such a huge population of people that want to play with cards now? Like what happened? I used to get bullied for playing with cards when I was in school. Is it cool to play with cards now? Like, is that what everyone does now? I mean, Magic definitely gave it a good image. Pokemon is super huge and everyone loves it, but I guess like everyone loves playing with cards now. Like, I guess that's just the move. And I'm impressed, but I'm just curious, like, where are we going from here, right? And how will the existing companies respond to this? Because they're all trying to make a profit, but when like it's not just that they're, you know, trying to profit off of their own games and competing against each other, but like Bandai is putting out a bunch of different card games. Like how will their Dragon Ball card game survive in a market where it's the whole competition, and there's also freaking like Union Arena or whatever it's called, One Piece, Digimon, you know, and Battle Spirits. They're literally fighting with themselves. And then like Bushrod is also gonna be fighting with themselves with Vice and Shadowverse Evolve. And you know, it's gonna be interesting. This is the most saturated the market, oversaturated the market's ever been. And I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. You know, what do you think is gonna happen with the TCG market this year? Like, will it continue growing? Will we see some games end because they just can't keep fighting in this super hyper competitive market? You know, do we have to keep watching companies like Konami and Wizards to just keep tripping up for other, you know, for players to trickle off into other games? Like, I think there's some companies, Bushrod included, that can't afford to mess up, so they gotta really be careful with their moves as well, because in the end, these are basically just hobbies that everyone plays. Pretty expensive hobbies, but at the end of the day, it's not a job, it's not a commitment, it's not family. But you know, these companies have to fight for these people's free time and money. You know, there's inflation and everyone's paying more to live, to literally stay alive. And I'm curious to see, you know, how will TCG companies respond to that? So interesting little discussion for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, if you like the video, give it a like, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe. And if you'd like to support my channel, help me pay my moving fees as I'm moving to a different apartment here in Japan, consider becoming a YouTube channel member for all kinds of cool perks and some remote fight tournaments that we organize as well. But otherwise, that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.